Welcome. First of all, just our condolences to the Vincent family. I know Eddie was a tremendous football player here and really a great period for Iowa football, certainly. So our condolences to his family. Moving forward, injury-wise, I think we're in pretty good shape. Came out of the game pretty healthy. Captain-wise, we have the same four players, James Vandenberg, James Ferentz offensively, and Micah Hyde and James Morris on defense will lead the team. And certainly want to congratulate Mike Meyer for being a co-MVP special teams, Big Ten special teams. That's certainly a nice award and something that he earned. Did a great job out there. And as I said the other day, just really happy to get the win and safe trip home, all that type of thing. And now we turn on to our next opponent, play Iowa State this Saturday. And it's obviously a big game for our football team, and I think a big game for everybody involved in the state, which is an outstanding thing for everybody. They've got a excellent football team. Had a very impressive win Saturday against a good Tulsa football team, and they've just done a nice job year in and year out with what they're doing over there. So, we've got a big challenge on our hands and certainly a lot of work to do this week, and we'll begin that this afternoon.
Certainly the passing game wasn't where you'd like it to be in the opener. When you go back and look at it, what's the biggest key to turning that around?
I think a lot of things. It's like everything. It's a team thing, and we can do a better job protecting. Certainly, that stood out at times in a not so good way. Route running, throwing, all those things. So it's just something we'll continue to work at.
DJ Lowry doing okay after Saturday's game?
He's fine. Yeah, he'll be fine.
As you grade out your offensive line, does it feel a little more like the group that helped spring Bullock for 150 yards or the group that gave up 6 sacks, or kind of a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. I think our whole team was like that. We did a lot of good things Saturday, certainly enough to win against a good team, but there are an awful lot of things that we can improve upon, some very obvious and some more subtle. But the good news is I think we have a team that's capable of improvement. I felt like that coming out of spring ball, felt like that coming out of the preseason, and I feel even more so that now.
What stands out to you about A.J. Klein and Jake Knott, their linebacking team?
They're veteran and they're extremely productive. They just play extremely hard. They don't come off the field, and they're out there all downs regardless of the situation. They're playing all the time, but they play with great effort, and that's what linebackers are supposed to do. Play with energy and effort. And if you look at there was a play. Speaking of Knott, a play he made the other day, they Tulsa completed a ball down the field, fairly far down the field, and he hustled down there and knocked the ball loose. So that to me is kind of representative of the way he plays. He's going to be till the whistle blows. He's going to be involved, and that's an outstanding play. And plays like that are to me representative of what good players do.
Last year at this time, you didn't have a lot of tape on Steele Jantz, and now that you do, is it easier to game plan for some of the things that he does, making plays when they've broken down or scrambling, getting outside the pocket?
Yeah, we got plenty of tape from our game to start with. It was like his highlight reel, but he had a really good game Saturday. So I think the difference is now he's a year older. I think that was his second ball game last year, and then he got injured shortly thereafter. So he's a more experienced player, a lot more confident, looks like to us, and he really had a tremendous game Saturday against Tulsa, running the ball and throwing the ball.
What had you seen out of Damon Bullock that made you confident that you could give him the ball 30 times?
You said I was confident? Those are your words, not mine. We didn't know. I think I said that going into the game. We didn't know what to expect, and not in a negative way, but the facts are the facts. He had 10 carries last year, and I wasn't counting it. I've just read it several times. So we didn't know what to expect, and that's really true of a lot of our players. And he made a lot of plays where he probably could have done better, and I think he saw that on Sunday. I think he knew that probably Saturday. But on the positive side, he did a lot of good things, certainly. And I think the most positive thing to me, two things: he finished the ball game with carrying a heavy load, and then secondly, finished it strong. And I think our whole team did that, but he in particular obviously made the touchdown run. But I think maybe as impressive to me was getting the first down. With the next two runs, on that last possession. So those were tough yards, and he did a good job there. So that was a huge step for him. Hopefully it'll do a lot for his confidence. And but all that being said, he's still a young player.
Do you feel like that'll be the distribution running back-wise going forward, or is it too early to tell?
Well, we wouldn't have predicted that, certainly. I didn't know if we'd run the ball 30 times, let alone give it to one guy 30 times. So my guess is we'll spread it around. I still think Mike Malloy is going to be playing here. I don't know how soon, but and certainly Greg Garman got his feet wet. We'll try to expand that. I think he's a good player too. So my guess is all three guys will do it, and then it's a matter of how much Damon can, how much he can handle. We'll see.
When did pooch punters start being vogue? I mean, when did a punter start being an all-around punter? A long guy and a short guy.
I don't know. I mean, we've had guys, and I got to go back to the 80s. I think when Roby was out there. Yeah, I mean, if you got Reggie Roby, you probably don't take him off the field. Or if you have a Reggie Roby running back or something like that, you don't take those guys off the field. But real commonsensically for us, first of all, John's done a good job, or we wouldn't have had him do that. He's done a good job in practice. And then secondly, Connor's another guy who's never played in college football. And, just kind of felt like if we could divide the labor a little bit, that might be better for Connor, certainly. And it gives John one more thing to have ownership in, which I think is a positive thing. He's our holder. He's just been a great attitude guy. And, he's a good football player, got beat out by a better player, quite frankly. And so, he's carved out a role for to help the team. And I thought that was a real, if nothing else happens this year, if we don't have to plus 50 punt again, which that's not going to happen. But if we didn't, he really did a great job Saturday. And he was a big part of the win, certainly.
You plan to change the way you scheme against Steele Jans this year, given the way he performed last year?
Yeah, it might be a good idea if we try to keep him, contained a little bit. And, I was telling the team the other day, I think my first game when I was like in third or fourth grade, I forgot to take my helmet. The good news was, that was the bad news. Good news was I don't play anyway. So, my dad had time to go home, get it, and bring it back. Coach White really didn't miss me. But even then, I think, when I was that young, you learn in football somebody's got to contain. And we kind of forgot that last year. So, and it's easier said than done. Tulsa struggled with that a little bit at times, too. He's a very good athlete. And with their scheme, it makes it tough it's easier to say that than do it.
Where does that fall? Outside linebackers or defensive?
Everybody. Everybody's it depends on the call and the formation, all that thing. Somebody always has contained, though. It's just part of defense. And if it breaks down, you really run the risk of being in trouble. And we found that out the hard way last year to the tune of whatever it was, 48 points or 44 points. Not that was all, but, boy, it makes it tough to play defense.
In this series, how big of a deal has home field advantage been for you guys, and what kind of advantages does playing at Kinnick offer against Iowa State?
It didn't help us in 2002. It did for the first half and didn't in the second half. So, it's really what you make of it. And, we've won up there. We've won here. They've won up here, and they've won at home, obviously. So it really comes down to the team that plays the best.
On the offensive line Saturday, what was correct? What did you see a lot of correctable type of play?
I think that's a statement I would say about our whole team. I think a lot of things are correctable. That's the good news. But the challenge is how quickly can you correct things, and how quickly will that show up on the game field? And the better you run that race, the better chance you have of winning. So it's then you factor in the team that you're playing. So there's always challenges at hand, and there will be in November too. But it's that's a race that we're running right now.
How would you assess the defensive line's play Saturday?
It was a good start. It was a good start, and most pleasing probably is Dom Alvis. Really had a good game, and he has. I don't want to say he's been struggling, but he's been laboring in camp. I may have said that a week or two ago. In that he's coming back from an injury, and you don't just get out there and ride full speed. You don't get on that bike and go full speed. You're trying, but you don't. So that was probably, quite frankly, his best day. I think it was our 30th time with a helmet on since we started. And luckily for us, 30 was his best one. So, I think that'll give him some confidence now. And he's really our only really experienced guy up there. So that was good for everybody else, too, to have him playing the way he did.
The defensive tackles today, it seemed like they made a huge improvement from the first half to the second. Technique was much tighter in the second half.
Yeah, we played overall better defense in the second half. I think that's been overlooked, and I've sat in a million meetings where I've heard people say, well, if you took this play away, that would have really been a good game. Well, you can't do that, and you can't play good defense giving up big plays, and that's what we did there in that second half. But we improved. We improved, and that's a young group of guys. That's a big step for us, hopefully.
What's the status of Melvin Spears, Bud Spears?
He's working back from an injury, and he'll he'll practice hopefully at least half today, and I think we're getting closer. You know, he had a setback about 10 days ago, so yeah, hopefully we'll get him back here soon.
How would you assess the progression of Iowa State's program under Coach Rhodes?
Yeah, I just said on the teleconference. Again, I'm hardly an expert on it, but I think the one thing that's clear to me several years later now is that, and everybody's got, I think, a plan or a vision when they come to a place. Certainly, you know, if you don't, you probably shouldn't get hard. And but the biggest thing is they've stuck to their plan. From my vantage point, I'm just one person speaking. But when I watch their tape, that's what I see. They have a pretty good idea of what they want to be offensively, defensively, special teams. It hasn't changed a lot, I don't think, since he's been there, other than they're playing better. You know, their players are better now. They're more experienced. They're experienced in their system. And, you know, they really do a good job. And that's what good teams do, I think, whether, you know, whatever your style of play may be, whatever you choose it to be, it's having an identity and then really working to be good in that identity. And they've really done a good job of that, including special teams. And the most important ingredient of the players playing hard and playing really sound. And their guys do that, do a great job of that.
What is that plan in your eyes?
Oh, yeah, I mean, offensively, they're what you guys love. You know, they throw the ball all over the place, you know, left, right, down the field. They've got a little option keep. They've got a quarterback who can throw it and keep it. He's a dangerous runner, dangerous thrower, and three backs that are very, very effective. And their line's done a nice job, too. So, you know, to me, they're a lot more proficient doing it now than they were a couple of years back.
Do you think this is the best Iowa State team that's come in here in a while?
You know, we have one game to judge it off of, but they were very impressive Saturday against a good football team. Tulsa won 8 ball games last year, I believe, and you know, it was just an impressive outing, especially first time out.
Of last year's game, now it's become a rivalry again.
It's been one ever since I got here, Bob. Unfortunately, you know, and we were, you know, on the short end there for a while, so it's gone back and forth. And last year's game to me is probably pretty symbolic of the way this thing should be and is. You know, just if both teams are playing well, it's going to go right down to the wire. And last year went down to the wire and then some.
What areas of improvement do you emphasize with James Vandenberg this week and expect him to be better at this Saturday?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I think, again, when I look at our offense, I think it's really a team thing. I really do. And we have to protect him better. I thought he did a good job of not managing the game. I hate that word. Running the game, running our offense, running our team. And I just thought he did a good job overall. But our passing game wasn't what we want it to be. And but it'll get better. You know, we just have to keep working.
How concerned are you about the separation receivers were not able to get?
You know, we just didn't look overall in great sync passing game wise. You know, so it's a concern, but it's going to improve. It has to improve, and it will.
I know you're not a huge stat person, especially turnover ratio. I think you bring that one up, but that yards per attempt. How does that?
I know it's better to have more than less. I know that. I know that much. It wasn't enough Saturday. I can put that out there. You know, it was a tough game. I mean, they have a good defensive football team. We thought they were good going in, and you know, leaving the game now, we still think they're pretty good. You know, they can rush the passer, they cover well. You know, so they're a good defensive football team. We're going to play. You know, I imagine they're going to be representing the kind of teams we play. So it was a challenge, and we have to get better. But we know that.
Is there a benefit to having a close first game as opposed to what Oklahoma State did to Savannah State or something like that, where you maybe get the players' attention more because it was one that they could have lost?
We've had both. Well, you know, most games are games you could have lost. I mean, we've been in a lot of games historically that are like that. So, yeah, it's one more on that pile, if you will. And you know, the good thing is that we persevered and won the game because it could have gone either way. We knew that going up there. Maybe other people didn't, but we had a lot of respect for those guys. They've won a few games over the last couple of years. Good football team. It's well coached. So, you know, we had a lot of respect for them. We're happy to get the win. And as I said the other day, I'm happy with our guys' effort and the fact that they finished the game out. That's why you play 60.
Do you get the sense that a game like that could serve as a wake-up call from your past history?
I don't know about a wake-up call. I don't think anybody's sleeping going into it. I think, you know, we'll know more about it probably in January. You know, we'll know more about the whole thing once it's over.
What do wins and losses in this series mean when they're over in terms of the momentum the team has if they win and way back from in a loss? Or I'm sure it feels like a non-conference game in one way, but in one way it's clearly not.
Yeah, just in general, I've never been, I don't think I have, involved in an undefeated season, so I don't know what that feels like. But, if you play sports, you're going to win, you're going to lose. You're going to have easy games that turn out to be relatively easy. Very infrequently in most games you end up being pretty tough. So, whatever the outcome is, you have to be able to deal with that, particularly when you got a game in less than 7 days. And you really don't have time to, mull over it too much, good, bad, or indifferent, once the day after is over. So, you got to turn your sights to the next game. And the teams that can handle those circumstances, whether they're good or bad, the teams that handle those the best tend to do the best. So, you just take it for what it is and move on to the next opponent.
But this game in particular doesn't feel different than any other in that sense.
Maybe I'm not following you on that one.
Well, just like that game last year, a really tough in-state game like that. Does Iowa State build in a momentum sense? Do you guys come back from that with?
You have to. I can't remember who we played last year. That was a tough bus ride home, if that's what you're asking. Wow. It was a tough one home after 2007 too. I remember those distinctly. I remember coming out of Chicago in 2005. You got to get on a bus and or travel anyway. None of them are any good. When you lose, it's not good. It's just not good. But you can't sit around and mourn for too long, or you're going to lose the next one too. And it's a little different when the season's over. Then you can mope for a week or so. But at some point you got to get going.
Every year, Coach, what's the vibe like around campus and around your team as this week approaches towards games day?
I'm the worst guy on campus to ask because, we're in this building, and I will be till tomorrow night when I get to go do something out in public. But we're the coaches are the worst guys to know. But it just, it's clearly it started Sunday night. I made an appearance on a radio show, Jim and Jim. And Jim just had his 91st birthday, so that's a great thing. So that's unique in itself, but it's kind of a kickoff, if you will, of what's going on. And none of us are oblivious to what's going on here. Obviously, but I think it's great for the entire state, especially we don't have any pro football teams in our state, so everybody, I'm not minimizing the other teams in the state. There are a lot of great programs here, but it's certainly it's a big game for everybody, I think border to border.
How do you feel like you guys did, the new coaches, just communication and things like that on Saturday?
Yeah, we've worked at that, but I think most teams do that too, especially when they have changes. But I was asked that on teleconference, and I think, going back to the start of spring practice, I've been happy with every step of the way. I think things went really very smoothly. Communication was good. I don't think the players had any issues at all, and we haven't made a big deal of it because I don't think it is a big deal. I think everybody's worked hard at it, and I think things went well that way.
You only played 4 true freshmen the other day, and in the special teams in the past, you've had 5, 6, 7 sometimes just to kick off the season. What does that say, I guess, about your depth maybe on the redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and then 2, about your current group?
Yeah, time will tell how that works out. But in a perfect world, if we could keep it where it's at, we'd be fine with that. That may change as we move forward. Certainly, you start getting guys that can't play injury-wise, that type of thing, and what have you. But in a perfect world, I'd still rather prefer to redshirt players. But the world's not perfect, so we'll see how it goes. But the guys that played got their feet wet, and that was good. And we'll have some ups and downs with them, sure. But if we can keep it there, that's great. If not, we have a couple other guys that we're looking at, and we'll just see how the next several weeks go.
Do your paths for recruiting cross with them anywhere but the state of Iowa?
Yeah, in the Midwest a little bit. Then I think after you leave the Midwest, they tend to go more west, although they go to Florida, and we don't go to Florida an awful lot. So not too much once you leave the Midwest, but there are players in the Midwest that we bump heads with.
Does Coach Davis have carte blanche when it comes to play calling, or is that still a situation that's evolving between the two of you?
Basically, both he and Phil are the coordinators, and we have our discussions during the course of the week. But those guys call the game. I've got veto power at any time, but I don't exercise a lot, and I really haven't in 13 years. But there are times where I'll make suggestions.
I know you guys are asking wide receivers to kind of read things and react to coverages and players and where they are. Saturday there were a few empty throws that went to empty spaces. How would you assess the wide receivers in their grasp of that at this point?
I think, as I said earlier, I think all of us want it to be better than what we saw Saturday, and I expect that it will be. But that's one area I think we've made improvement, and I wasn't. We weren't anything to write home about during the course of spring. I said that after spring practice, and I think I also said after the preseason that we'd made improvement there, and I believe that, and I think it'll show up. So we'll keep working.
What do you make of the fiery passion and outpouring of emotion from Coach Rose on the sidelines and after victories? Do you think that's good for Iowa State? He's completely different from you.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you have a certain personality, right. So does he. It works for you, seems to be working for him. What do you think of the way that he exudes passion and fire on the sideline before and after games?
I think no matter what your profession is, you probably ought to do it within the framework of your personality. That'd be, if I was giving advice, which I'm not, but I think that's what, the most effective people that I've witnessed in any profession do, and, so that's what you do.
How would you assess the development of Mike Myers, a kicker, whether it's consistency or confidence, especially after the game he had on Saturday?
Well, he didn't have a perfect game the other day, and he wishes he had, and we all do, because that made it a little bit more interesting. But the thing about what happened on Saturday, in my mind, the highlight of the whole thing was the way he bounced back from that. Because, it's easy to go in the tank when you miss one that you feel like you can make. And I think that's probably representative of the kind of, to me, he's a much more mature player than he was a year ago or 2 years ago. And, saw that confidence growing in the spring. Typically, confidence is a result of practicing well and then performing well at some point. But he's really prepared well. He's worked hard. He's gotten better each and every segment, if you will, and had an excellent preseason too. So we're not only confident he's going to be a good player this year, we're counting on that. And I'd lump him. We have a bunch of guys in that junior class that I think are like that are ready to really play good football, and Mike's certainly in that group. So it was great to see him do what he did.